Bienvenidas, bienvenidos, and happy Women's History Month. Before I start, I just want to thank our JC president, Dr. Chong, for coming out. And he just met with our presenter, and I had to assure him that this shirt was not about him. Welcome to today's arts and lecture event titled Music and Writing for Social Change by guest artist Taína Asili, who is here all the way from our sister blue state, Nueva York. Yeah. This presentation is co-sponsored by the Santa Rosa Junior College Women's History Month Committee, the Multicultural Events Committee, the Latino-Latina Faculty Staff Association, Student Equity, and our Student Government Assembly. My name is Rhonda Findling. I'm a counselor in EOPS here at the college, and I chair the Women's History Month Committee. Thanks. So today's presentation will be 50 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of questions and answers, ending at 1 o'clock. The presentation is being videotaped and transmitted live to our Petaluma campus. If you need to leave the auditorium before the event is over, please do not walk in front of this video camera right here. If everyone could take a moment to turn off any electronic devices, cell phones that could interrupt the program. Immediately following the presentation, Taína will do a CD signing in the lobby where her CDs will be available for purchase. And during the Q&A, we are going to give away some CDs to those who ask questions. Okay?
Questions in Spanish or English?
Whatever it's up to you.
Whatever. We'll talk about that.
Taína and two members of her band, La Banda Rebelde, will also be doing a free live concert here tonight in the Student Activity Center across the street in Bertolini at 7:30. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to introduce to you today a musical artist who has become, to me, a heroine of our times in that she speaks out in powerful words and song for critical issues of social justice and against the current tyranny disguised as democracy. Of Puerto Rican descent, Taína was recognized in 2015 by the Hispanic Coalition of New York as one of their 40 under 40 rising stars. In January, she performed on stage with her band at the Women's March on Washington, alongside with many other famous activists, artists, and politicians in an unprecedented resistance to a U.S. presidential election. That's not an alternative fact. Taína and La Banda Rebelde have recorded 2 CDs of social justice songs, blending various musical genres, including Afro-Latin, reggae, rock, and hip-hop. Her music was featured on Democracy Now! 3 times in the past year, demonstrating the importance of her voice and poetry as an artist and warrior for social change. Taína has performed at many festivals and venues around the world, and has developed and taught both poetry and songwriting workshops and curriculum for children and adults that focus on marginalized populations. She's a co-founder of the New York State Prisoner Justice Network and is involved in many other social justice organizations and efforts too numerous to cite here. Her poetry has been featured in a number of CD collections and in the documentary Seen and Not Heard about women and hip-hop culture. In addition to her many artistic accomplishments, Taína holds a Master's of Arts in Transformative Language Arts and a BA in Women's Studies. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Taína Asili.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's an honor to be here on campus. I came here a year ago, met Rhonda at an event sponsored by the Raíces Collective, and have since fell in love with Santa Rosa and many of the people that I've met here. Um, Today's presentation is talking about what I do and what it's the lineage that it's a part of. And so I identify as a social justice musician. And for me, I see the work that I do as a social justice musician as part of a really powerful history of creating music for social change, creating music to resist oppression. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of that history and some of that present day manifestations of social justice music and pulling from genres, from time periods, and from movements. As I was telling Rhonda earlier, for me, this is something that could be a full course. You know, there is this subject and the idea of music as a form of resistance is something that is really has a long and powerful history with many, many people who have participated in it, many musicians and songwriters. So today will just be a sampling of what that looks like. But before we begin, I wanted to tell you a little bit of my own history in social justice music. So I started at the age of 14 singing opera. And I had a Peruvian opera singer who was my instructor. And I fell in love with classical music, classical European music. But my roots are, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm a New York-born Puerto Rican, born and raised in upstate New York, the other New York. And my parents were both musicians and artists and keepers of tradition. So my father was a Latin jazz conductor, a conguero, a conga player, and also an amazing singer. He was a doo-wop singer. And he grew up in East Harlem and used to sing doo-wop on the street corners. And so he was the person that taught me about harmony. My mother was a dancer. She danced African dance, salsa, and also a Puerto Rican folkloric art form, which we'll talk about in a little bit, called bomba. And so my parents were very much my beginning musical influences. But they were also my socio-political influences in terms of understanding myself in relationship to the world and injustice. So my father, in addition to singing doo-wop on street corners, was also witnessing Malcolm X speak on street corners. My mother went back to Puerto Rico and studied bomba. And together they created a bomba group in upstate New York. Both of them came through an affirmative action program similar to probably something that you have here. They went to Binghamton University, and they founded the Latin American Student Union at Binghamton University. And this was, the founding of that was something that was not just about, going to a student association and signing up, filling out your forms. This was something that was inspired by the Young Lords and the Black Panthers and Malcolm X and the people that were creating powerful resistance movements in New York City at that time, particularly the Latinos, particularly the Puerto Ricans. And so they created this Latin American Student Union through sit-ins and protests, fighting for a space to have our culture celebrated and honored. And so that was the foundation of my political upbringing. So I had opera, I had my Puerto Rican roots, and then somehow at the age of 16, I got into punk rock. And I fell in love with punk rock. It was something that for me my parents loved salsa, but I grew up in upstate New York, and I loved rock and roll. And I had that rebellious spirit, and I wanted to express that in my own unique way. And so I became a part of a group called Anti-Product that gained international popularity. And for 8 years, we toured the country numerous times. We put out records all over the US, Europe, Malaysia, Japan, Australia, and became pretty well known in the punk scene of our time. And through that traveling and through that opening up, I got interested in social justice work outside of what my parents had instilled in me. I started to get involved in work around political prisoners and fighting against mass incarceration and state violence. I got into learning about climate change and working to fight climate change. I became a feminist, identifying as a feminist, and got involved in feminist movements. And all of these influences translated into the songs that I would write. From there, after my time period in the punk scene, I became involved in the spoken word movement of Philadelphia. How many of you have heard of Sonia Sanchez? Have any of you ever heard of the poet Sonia Sanchez? So Sonia Sanchez is a famous poet from Philadelphia, and I was very much inspired by her and the poetry, the spoken word poetry and slam poetry, if you've heard of that, of Philadelphia, and started to get involved in that as well, and expressing, again, my own experiences as a queer Puerto Rican in the US and what I had been going through, and as a woman, through my poetry, through my songs. In 2006, Gaetano and I decided to create a musical project that was sort of a collaboration of all those different pieces. So it pulled together my Afro-Latin roots, my punk rebellion, my poetry, even the opera training that I had experienced growing up. And that was what formed Taína Asili, La Banda Rebelde. That project started in 2006, and since then, as Rhonda said, we have toured the nation many times, toured Europe and Puerto Rico and Mexico, and really gotten to cultivate my own authentic voice and what I wish to offer in my new stage of life in my work. So that's a little bit of my history. Through that, I have met some amazing, so that's been 20 years, I've met some amazing social justice musicians and songwriters. And I started to think about this history. So part of my master's work at Goddard College was looking a little bit at some of this history of social change songwriting. And one thing that became really obvious to me is that since oppression has existed, music has been a part of that resistance to it. So one example is bomba from Puerto Rico, as I mentioned earlier. Bomba is a Puerto Rican folkloric art form that incorporates dancing, drumming, and song. And it was a Taíno, which are the indigenous people of Puerto Rico, and Africano collaboration that was used during the times of slavery as a way to reclaim our humanity in the face of inhumanity, as a time to celebrate who we are, to remember who we are, remember our roots, when they were being taken away from us, when we were not allowed to drum, when we were not allowed to hold on to our traditions. And when the slave masters would go away to church, our bombazos, as we call them, were a time where we would organize slave revolts. And this is just one example of so many other places across the earth where colonization has existed. People continued to drum. People continued to sing. New creations, underground movements of music and community were formed. And so you see that in African American spirituals here, or capoeira in Brazil. And then we have other examples, English folk songs against, class resistance. You see Irish rebel music when, people were fighting for, in Ireland for, to resist the English imperialism. We look at India and the anti-imperialist protest music of India, or even flamenco, but from the Gitanos in Spain. So we see examples of this all over the world. And even today, our contemporary musical forms that we might not think of as resistance music, whether it be jazz or blues, rock, hip-hop, reggae, salsa, all of those styles came out of a people who were reclaiming their humanity in the face of inhumanity. out of a people that were taking their roots and their culture and making them more contemporary and creating a space. These movements came out of people who were oppressed and were creating music out of that oppression, creating something beautiful and something powerful out of that oppression. And so what we might not think of them today as resistance music, but to me, all of these genres are representations of just that. So what I want to do today is look at 5 different categories of social justice music that I've kind of created over my time looking at this. And I'm going to invite you to listen to the music. We're going to look at the lyrics and look at examples of it. And I want you to think about, what do you feel or experience when you hear and read this song? So oftentimes people give me a literal interpretation, like, well, this song is about X, Y, Z. But really, music is not just about understanding it from an intellectual perspective, but also the power of the music comes from what we feel when we hear it. And that's a little bit more difficult to articulate, but really that's where the power of that music comes from. So I also want you to think about, how does this song, if at all, relate to what's happening in our world today? A lot of the songs from the past have messages that translate very well to what's happening in the present. So does it relate to what's happening today? And then you can look a little bit about what you notice about the structure of the song. So our first category, the first lens that I look at when I'm looking at social justice music is music that speaks our truth. So to bear witness to our own lived experiences, to tell our truth, our pain, our anger. Oftentimes the voices or experiences of the oppressed have been silenced. So music has been created as an act of resistance to break that silence and find power in our shared experience, to find our humanity in the face of inhumanity. And so the first example of that I love to think about is Nina Simone. How many of you have heard of Nina Simone? Beautiful. So this song is called Mississippi Goddamn.
Knows about Mississippi, goddamn. Alabama's got me so upset. Lurleen Wallace has made me lose my rest. Everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn. Can't you see it? I know you can feel it. It's all in the air. I can't stand the pressure much longer. Somebody say a prayer. Alabama has got me so upset, and Memphis has made me lose my rest. Everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn.
So this song was created as Nina Simone's response to what was happening politically during that time, particularly as a response to the murder of Medgar Evers. And this is Nina Simone's expression of her truth as she witnessed what was happening in her community, in the Black community of that time in the 1960s. Another example of speaking our truth is a hip-hop group called Rebel Diaz. Their song is I'm an Alien. How many of you have heard of Rebel Diaz before? Has anybody heard they're a hip-hop group out of the Bronx? Definitely check them out if you haven't already. Rebel Diaz, they're from Chile, and they were born in England and grew up in Chicago. You can go ahead.
So search earth, mother, it feels good to say things that uplift the hood. For what it's worth, we've been here for a while. Follow the moon, take a walk for a mile in the shoes of the man that pick your fruit. I want access to schools, I don't want to join the troops. You came to my country, you brought the dictator. Gave him money and told him pay me later. So taste the tomato, whatever. The students, the farmers, working together. Pa'lante inmigrante, no a la guerra. Mundo mapuche, siempre, forever.
So this song is their expression of how they feel and how they're viewed in this country. And Rebel Diaz not only is a hip-hop group, but are also prominent activists that are doing work in New York City and really around the nation on a lot of issues, including police brutality, prison injustice, and immigrant rights. The next category that I like to look at in terms of social justice songwriting is solidarity music. So solidarity music is music that is created in solidarity with another movement. So also in the act of breaking silence, songs of solidarity with others' movements of resistance have been an important part of social justice. Not to be confused with appropriation, which is writing as if someone else's experience is your own, or speaking uninvited and unaware about someone else's experience. Songs of solidarity reflect movements that have called for people to help spread awareness of their struggle and are written with careful research and respect. So we'll look at a couple examples of that. How many of you have heard of Rage Against the Machine? Has anybody heard of Rage Against the Machine? So Rage Against the Machine was a group that I loved in the 1990s and recently had an opportunity to tour with the guitarist Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine over the summer. This song is called People of the Sun.
We gotta turn the bass up on this one. Check it. Since 1516, minds attacked and overseen. Now crawl amidst the ruins of this empty dream. With their borders and boots on top of us, pulling out on the floor of the toxic metropolis. But how you gonna get what you need to get? The gut eaters, blood drenched, get offensive like tech. The fifth sunsets get back proclaimed. The spirit of Guatemala, alive and untamed. Now face the fog, now blasting out your speaker. War to war, fire, Mexica. They won't you gain to try to steal your name, but now you got a gun. And this is for the people of the sun. Who's coming back around again? This is for the people of the sun. It's coming back around again. It's coming back around again.
So this song was created as a song in solidarity with the Zapatistas of Chiapas, Mexico. And that was, at that time, the Zapatistas were calling for people to uplift their struggle and uplift their movement and to create a lens to what they were, their struggle and what they were working on there. And so Rage Against the Machine used their popularity and their voice as a song of solidarity with this. Anne Feeney is a folk singer who I also had the privilege of touring with this summer. And she's a very well-known folk singer who's been doing work since the early 1960s, touring with, traveling to
Listen up.
picket lines.
We've got a war zone
Right.
here today, right
Singing
in our
songs in
heartland.
solidarity with union
And
workers.
across the USA, these multinational bastards don't use tanks and guns, it's true. But they've declared a war on us. Fight back, it's up to you. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. Going to work could be the death of you and me, but we're not unarmed. Our weapons, solidarity. Jim Beals and Karen Silkwood, the list goes on and on. With every year that passes, 60,000 more gone. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers.
So Anne is an artist who, as I said before, has spent her entire career not getting famous, although she is extremely well known, but using her work, going to picket lines, going to strikes, and supporting the workers. And that has been her entire career, has been doing that work. It's been very profound. And that's a powerful way that artists support and work in solidarity with movements. This next artist is Paul McAdam, who I performed with in Belfast, Ireland. He's a well-known musician there, and he wrote this song about someone named Troy Davis. How many of you have heard of Troy Davis? Anybody ever heard of Troy Davis? So in 2011, I want to say, Troy Davis was on death row, and was still maintained his innocence. There had been a lot of evidence to prove his innocence. People, Desmond Tutu, very prominent people called for him to not be executed. And there was a large movement of people, not only in the US, but across the world, that were calling for him to not be executed. Sadly, he was executed. And there was a movement for people to say, I am Troy Davis, in solidarity with his execution. This is Paul McAdams' song,
They had
Solidarity.
much to do to apprehend the suspect with hardly any clues. So they worked on many witnesses who did what they were told, and this travesty of justice did unfold.
One of the things I noticed when I went to Belfast, Ireland, Belfast, as you know, or as you may know, has a long history of people who have been fighting for Ireland to be free and for the north of Ireland to be free. And Paul McAdam is a part of that movement. And so they have a lot of work that they do in solidarity with social justice movements here in the US. The next category is historical remembrance and cultural reclamation. For many people, for many oppressed people, our connection to our roots, our ancestry, our history have been cut off. So music has also been used to reconnect us to those histories, traditions, and ancestral ways. And I thought I would share one of my own songs. This song is called Sofrito. And I don't know if we have any Puerto Ricans here today or any folks who know what sofrito is. Sofrito is a sauce that is used in Puerto Rican cooking. It's a base, but it's also, for me in this song, symbolizes remembering our roots, remembering my culture and my people and where I come from. Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States. And the reason why I'm here in the United States is because of forced migration and being forced to come to this country. And in many ways, I see my connection to my ancestry and reclaiming my roots as a part of that decolonization process. So this song is written in Spanish. Spanish is not my dominant language at this point. English is my dominant language, but even writing in Spanish is part of that cultural reclamation for me. That's my song, Sofrito, which I will perform tonight. Thank you. This is a group that I love, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Have any of you ever heard of Sweet Honey in the Rock? Oh, good. I love Sweet Honey in the Rock. And this song is by a very famous song. It's called Ella's Song. It was written by Bernice Johnson Reagan of Sweet Honey in the Rock. And it's a song that's sung at many demonstrations and protests, even to this day.
Until the killing of black men, black mother sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mother sons. We who believe in freedom and love. if you like it. We who believe in freedom and freedom till
So I love this song so much because as I learned from Bernice, having heard her recently talk about this, this song was a song that was actually written and a conversation that she had with Ella Baker, who was a civil rights and human rights activist that she knew very well. And so she sat down and had a conversation with her, and this song is almost a literal translation of what Ella Baker said to her in that conversation. And Sweet Honey is an example of people who have continued to hold on to our historical memory and our cultural memory for African American people. This is another artist you might not have heard of, but who I loved dearly and had a number of opportunities to meet and perform alongside. Her name is Chiwoniso. She was from Zimbabwe. In 2013, she passed away at the age of 37. And I miss her dearly. But this Chiwoniso was another artist who lifted up her cultural heritage as someone from Zimbabwe, and also spoke of that history and that struggle in Rebel Woman. And so this song, Rebel Woman, is a documentation of that, of the rebel women of her nation and their struggle.
her rifle by her side, rough one, hands upon her knee. Rebel woman, yeah. Rebel woman, yeah. Hinde, 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 wele. Hinde, 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 wele. Hinde, 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 wele. There will be no compensation. It was a
She's one of my favorite musicians of all time. So that's Chiwoniso. Another important aspect of social justice music, and I put this one as 4 because oftentimes people will think of this as number 1, but there's so many aspects to me of social justice songwriting. This one is songs that are a call to protest. So music has been used to organize people to come together in specific ways to resist. It calls for people to come together to protest and organize. And so that is the music that is a call to protest. Example of that would be Victor Jara and his song Venceremos from Chile.
Desde el hondo crisol de la patria se levanta el clamor popular, ya se anuncia la nueva alborada, todo Chile comienza a cantar, recordando al soldado valiente, cuyo ejemplo lo hiciera inmortal. Enfrentemos primero a la muerte, traicionar a la patria jamás. Venceremos, venceremos, mil cadenas habrá que romper. Venceremos.
So that was Victor Jara. Another example would be Rubén Blades, and his song Tiburón. How many of you heard Rubén Blades? Remember Rubén Blades? So this is his song Tiburón. This is one of my favorite songs. I might be covering it soon. Coming up.
Ruge la mar embravecida, rompe la ola desde el horizonte, brilla el verde azul del gran Caribe, con la majestad que el sol inspira. El peje guerrero va pasando, recorriendo el reino que domina, pobre del que caiga prisionero, hoy no habrá perdón para su vida. Es el tiburón que va buscando, es el tiburón que nunca duerme, es el tiburón que va acechando, es el tiburón de mala suerte.
So Rubén. And then another song, a contemporary Have you ever heard of the Peace Poets or the song I Can't Breathe? This might sound familiar to you if you've been at a Black Lives Matter demonstration or any kind of demonstration that is addressing issues of violence in our community. This is a song that became viral.
And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. I still hear my brother crying.
So this song was published on YouTube, and then Samuel Jackson covered it, and many other people sang it, celebrities, and it went viral. And now you hear this song sung at demonstrations, and poets. The Peace Poets are from the Bronx, and their work is really just creating songs for people to sing at protests and demonstrations. Another song that is a protest song is by a group called Blackfire. They're now known as Sihasin, and they're a Dene punk band from Flagstaff, Arizona. Has anybody ever gotten a chance to hear them or listen to them? I love their music. They're good friends of mine.
How can we have justice on stolen land? Stolen lives testify, human rights violation. So you want to find the terrorists? We'll start with the FBI, the CIA, and now the Forest Service. Justice now.
So they've been doing work in their area to fight, this is called the Peak Songs, and I think it's the San Francisco Peaks, I believe, that they have been doing work to protect their sacred land and working to stop, I think it is what is it called, a ski resort that is occupying that land, and so they've been doing work to stop that. And this is my band again. This is a song that we wrote called And We Walk.
This is a quest we must take on for our sacred sites and those we love. For our children we will not rest. Each step is a silent prayer to end the drilling of the wells that poison water we so deep.
So this song was inspired by the movement in Vieques, Puerto Rico to stop the U.S. Navy from bombing and from really occupying that land. And it was also inspired by work that I've been doing with Jun-san Yusada, who is a Japanese Buddhist nun who runs these peace walks to stop nuclear power and nuclear weapons. And basically anyone that is doing work to use their bodies, use their physical bodies to interrupt violence towards our earth. So that's what that song is called, why it's called And We Walk. And that was a protest song that I wrote. And the last category is celebration. And I think that this one is sometimes overlooked because we often think of social change songs as something that maybe is angry or something that is a little bit, on the serious side. But I also believe that celebrating who we are and celebrating our accomplishments and how far we come is an important part of social justice songwriting. So I include that in this category. And an example of that would be a group called Blue King Brown. Blue King Brown is led by a woman who is, they're Melbourne-based, but she's from Samoa. And this is a song that she sang in celebration of the revolution.
Give me that truth and I'll be yours. But don't you exploit the way I feel. Told me you'd stand up for the cause. Now I wanna give you the opportunity to make that promise real. Show me how you feel. Women around
love Blue King Brown. If you haven't gotten a chance to check them out, they are very, they do a fusion of a lot of different styles of music. And the last artist that I want to introduce to you is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Monica McIntyre, and she is a cellist, vocalist, and based in New Orleans. And this song is called Conjure.
Down, down, down. I have practiced magic, and I've watched it work. It has been decided that I am a conjurer. I am a conjurer. I am a conjurer. Protection goes before me. Protection is all around. Protection stands beside me, for this is sacred ground. Speak good things into being. Abundance all around. Happiness and joy rain down, down, down. Happiness and joy rain down, down, down.
So Monica is an artist that writes a lot about healing and celebrating her power as a spiritual person. Their power as a spiritual person. And Monica, this song in particular is a perfect example of that. Monica works a lot on really looking at wellness and self-care for our movements and for our people. And so this is an example of honoring that power, which is a part of that reclamation too, that cultural reclamation piece, but also a celebration, an acknowledgement that we have that power. And so that is Monica McIntyre. So that wraps up what I wanted to share with you in terms of the pieces of examples. But obviously, we could think of a million more. And I would love to hear who some of your favorite social justice artists are and what inspires you. But I wanted to just ask you to I wanted to go back to this question of what did you feel or experience? Were there any songs that you heard or read that you felt particularly touched by or had an experience, whether good or bad or no label at all, but felt something from? Feel free to share. And apparently we get a CD if we share.
I was impressed by the last one, the woman. Before you spoke about her, I mean, I felt it was already working on me in that way. She was distinct in that way. It kind of goes into a different part of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the rhythm of it too.
Right.
Yeah, helped that happen. Making the rhythm a certain kind of natural rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I felt that I was able to absorb that without even trying. It was kind of entering me. So thank you for that. I'll interrupt.
Thank you.
And I think that's one of the powerful things about music is that it's not something that always has to translate in terms of language. So for example, I sing songs in multiple languages, and people might not necessarily speak that language and understand what it means. But there's a translation, a vibrational translation that happens when we hear music. It literally, physically affects us when we're listening to sound. There are vibrations that are affecting our ears. There's things happening in our brain and other parts of our bodies. So that to me is one of the powerful things about music as a voice for change. Any other feelings or experiences from some of the music that you heard?
Celebration. I guess it just made me happy to be me, who I am today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think that that's an important aspect of social justice music because especially for myself, for example, again, as a queer Puerto Rican woman, I've been told my whole life that I don't belong, right? That I literally people have told me to go back to where I come from, and so to hold my place that I belong, that I am worthy, that I am loved, that I am beautiful. I mean, that to me is a really important and powerful aspect of social justice songwriting and reclaiming our love for ourselves. Absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Felt this sadness, recognizing we're here again, hearing that Mississippi Goddamn. Mm-hmm. I got to hear Mississippi, My Mississippi was just written this year. Their protest song, the Mississippi banned their gay rights laws they just passed. in one line and wiped them out.
Wow.
And a local woman in San Francisco wrote My Mississippi, which reminded me of this. It's that feeling of, oh God, we could do it again. Again. So I'll pass that My Mississippi on to you afterwards.
Yeah.
And with that, it also reminds us that we have done this before and we can do it again. Because music is that documentation. You know, like for example, I mentioned earlier that my parents were the keepers of the bomba tradition. It reminds us that we have moved through so much to get to this present moment. And we brought that lineage with us, and we brought that strength, and we brought that power. And what we have to face now, we have all that we need to face what we need to face. And music becomes a reminder of that.
I just also wanted to say that what made me remember also is that music can change, I'm saying a young person's life to inspire. I remember the first time that I heard Women on Wheels, Holly Near, that whole thing of women's music that wasn't on any radio station, and there were no YouTubes at that time. Yet I went with a lot of young women and women heard it before and were transformed. The day before they weren't, feminists. The next day after having gone to the Women on Wheels concert, you're transformed into something else. So that whole transformation that happens with music like this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What I love about it, besides being empowering and educational and spreading the word, is that, and feeling, is that it's not always obvious to people who may not resonate with the message. It's a very brilliant way to exist and to spread the message, because it's subversive in that way. It's like in a package, and people who may not, if you tell them the same message, they may walk away from you. If they hear the music, they may not get it, and then they get it. So it's another way of getting in.
It makes people more open sometimes.
Right. It opens people up, to another way of perceiving things. And also, it's a way to really exist in society. Because if you really put it out mainstream, the door's shut. Sometimes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and while you were talking about Nina, while you're speaking of Nina Simone, I have forever more famous song, Strange Fruit. Never heard it? Never actually heard it, but just heard about it.
Which I think was written by Billie Holiday. And I'm glad that you mentioned Strange Fruit, because Strange Fruit, was written by Billie Holiday, who, as I said before, I mentioned that jazz came out of really, it was born out of resistance, and Billie Holiday would be a perfect example of that, and that song would be a perfect example of that.
I remember Rage Against the Machine from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And really, I was always like, turn that down, it's so angry, I can't handle it. And sort of revisit it in this context. I never actually got to know the content of it because it became really mainstream.
Right.
I mean, relatively mainstream. But now to know the history, the mythology, and to see the words and put all the pieces of the puzzle together, it's like, no, of course they're angry.
Right.
These like, people went from being king, high, powerful culture to, feeling squashed down, of course.
Right.
There's rage,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, I like a lot of different art forms in how I express myself. Even still in my music, I love to have that moment to rage, because we need to release that. We need to release that anger. That anger is an important part, and that expression is an important part of moving through that. And I think that Rage Against the Machine was an interesting, you mentioned that they became very mainstream. So if you'll notice, some of the artists that I presented were artists that were underground or maybe lesser known, and some that were, extremely famous. Nina Simone, Rage Against the Machine, Sweet Honey. And, Rage Against the Machine did a lot of work to bring issues that were not mainstream to the forefront. So the Zapatistas, many people heard about the Zapatistas or Mumia Abu-Jamal or these movements that maybe people didn't know about through Rage Against the Machine and became actively involved and are still involved to this day in activism around those issues. So mainstream has a powerful place too. Any other thoughts on that?
For me, the song, an alien,
Mm-hmm.
it, with everything that's happening right now, precedents, political decisions to poor people, and, this song really touches something inside you, which keeps happening. And even if before the president took office, we always hear this, you don't belong here, an alien, so it's something that just brings up those feelings of anger too, because we're always called like aliens for some reason if you're an Indian or anything, you're not.
Whether you are or you aren't, right?
So it's just something like this.
Not that it matters. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, also, it's a sense of, it awakens empathy and understanding the world from somebody else's perspective, and in that finding solidarity. I think that's a very empowering feeling, not feeling alone, feeling like you're part of a movement. All that is empowering.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that, there's something about this sense of knowing that exactly that you're not alone, that we are together in struggle. And Rhonda mentioned that I performed at the Women's March on Washington, and I told a story about how when I came I came 2 days before, I performed actually at 3 events during that weekend. One was Disrupt J20, which was the demonstration on the actual inauguration day. And I remember walking into the streets, and there was Trump hats, not that many, because as we know, not that many people came, but enough that I started to feel a sense of being alone. And that I was alone in what I was feeling and what I was facing, and what my family and my children are facing as we move into this new era. And the Women's March the next day, getting to the environment completely transformed, and again there was a sea of about 1 million people, and all together in solidarity, and a stage full of artists, some underground and some very famous, like Madonna and Janelle Monáe, but all of us coming together in these songs of resistance. And that, to me, was very powerful, even for myself as a social justice artist, to remember that I'm not alone, that we're not alone in this struggle.
I really love the culture keeping and the continuity of history that goes on with music, and I think it's really important for breaking down barriers, socioeconomic barriers, people remembering historically where they came from, and also breaking intergenerational barriers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's been something interesting that's happened since the age of the internet and since the age of social media in particular, that what has existed before the internet didn't really exist. And and if you look at your Facebook status, right, what's the first thing that you see is the most recent thing that's happened, right? That's the first thing you see. And everything is all about what is happening right now. And from one perspective, being in the present is really powerful and important. But if we're only thinking about what's happening in the present and not remembering our past and not remembering our history and all of the tools and teachings that have been built to help guide us into the future, then we become very lost. And in the 20 years of activism that I've been doing recently, I found that people don't know a lot of that history. And songs are powerful documentation of that history. And so I share these songs. I do this workshop not only to remember, not only to think about social justice and the importance of social justice music, but also for us to begin to investigate some of that history and the documenters of those movements so that we can find those tools again. Anyone else? Okay. We'll take one more.
Of immigrants and working people, and it's so applicable today, I think, because dead white men still to poetry.
Yeah, a lot of these songs. Ella's song from, right, We Who Believe in Freedom. Until the killing of a black man, black mother's son is as important as the killing of white men, white mother's sons. That line is something I think about all the time as the mother of a black child. You know, I have a almost 14-year-old black son, and I think about that all the time. You know, that what we're facing at that point is still something that is really relevant and important for today. But the other piece of that song is, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. And I'm reminded that, that again, we're not alone in this struggle. We have the tools that we need to keep on moving on. So with that, I think we'll close the workshop. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rhonda.